Going live.
Hopefully it works.
Yeah. We're live.
Oh, we're live.
Yeah, we're live.
What's up, Patrick? Nice beard.
Thank you. It's my veterans, out of the army beard, even though I'm not out of the army. But
yeah, I'm growing mine out a little too.
This is the biggest. I mean, you've known me for a while. You never seen me with a beard, and this is as big as it's been. Not a beard, but you've seen me like scruff, but nothing like this.
I think close. I think I've seen one other time like that.
What's up,
Speaking
Jeffrey?
of manly men, what's up, Jeff? Yeah, I grow mine out a little bit for the winter too. I actually have some of the friends up here got me some beard oil, and I finally tried it out for the first time because I felt it was long enough, and it was really nice. So probably use that throughout the winter.
Beard oil. I've heard of that. I mean, I don't think I'm gonna get. I mean, I'm gonna have to shave this off at some point. Probably not till like January though. So who knows? By the time next time you see me, it might be, who knows what it'll look like.
Well, we haven't been doing a ton of shows the past couple of weeks. Patrick was on the road a bit, but there has been a lot of stuff going on. Obviously, the Rogue Invitational was a huge success. Congratulations to all the athletes and people involved there. There have been maybe a dozen other competitions around the world that have been happening. And did you know this, Patrick? Do you know that Andrew Hiller went to Korea?
Yeah.
And he came back and reported on what was going on there.
Yeah.
And he was like, man, wouldn't it be great if people did this when they traveled around the world? And so, I went back into my wardrobe. I found what do you know?
The World Tour shirt.
And I found this sweater here. Remember when we made these? Remember when we've been traveling around the world for 2.5 years doing exactly that?
Yeah, but the thing is, and like I said, I'm not going to say, what we are or what we aren't, but, it's just like we don't have a huge platform,
I tried that before. Actually, it was a horrible idea, so I'm glad you didn't do it.
Yeah.
But the point is that he is absolutely right. There are amazing things happening in the fitness community and in the global fitness community all the time. And so that's what we're going to kind of do today. We're not going to do super deep dives into all these competitions. Some of them we'll just talk a little bit more about. There are some athletes that we'll highlight for sure. But at each one of these cases, either Patrick or myself or both of us knows the people who are involved in running these competitions, knows a bunch of the athletes, volunteers, judges, staff that works at them. And it's a huge deal to pull these off. There's tons of athletes, thousands in many of these cases that compete, hundreds for the others of them. I saw this thing on Instagram today. I don't know how this woman came across my feed, but she was out at Desert City. I think she was maybe in the team division or a master's team division. And she was making something that was like comparing a spectator's experience at Desert City to the athletes. And she paid $120 registration to be a part of that and to go through these hard workouts and suffer. And then the other girl's like, oh, you paid $120? I'm planning on spending that in Vendor Village. She's like, man, this is hard. Looking at the decisions of what to make clothes on. The other girl's like finishing workout. She's like, that was fucking hard. It was pretty funny. But the point is, people all around the world pay to sign up to do these competitions. They're important. They're a huge part of the ecosystem. That's why we talk about them, and I'm looking forward to talking about many of them today.
Yeah, let's just dive right into it. By the way, Pool Boy wants that one. And I didn't even think about I didn't even think about that. Ironically fit, no shave, November in effect. So it's been like no shave since I can't remember probably the last time I did Army stuff, which was, I'm trying to remember that way that was. Maybe September-ish. I don't know. But yeah.
Pool Boy, you can have that sweatshirt after our next sleepover. You can just leave with it.
God. Just the way it is. Okay. But anyways, yeah, like Brian said, there's a lot of competitions. I mean, he sent me like a little like Brian, if you guys know Brian, the guy loves sheets, Excel documents, So he sends me over and I'm like, man, there's something that you forgot to add on that was Wodapalooza qualifiers. Individual wall qualifiers. I feel we can end with that because there's obviously some big names. We have a little bit more information we can put out and stuff like that. Maybe that, I don't know. Who cares if Dylan, if we're leaking
and their teams of 3-1 is starting. I think they made a big announcement today. Who's your 3? I thought it was good. Got a lot of engagement early, as they often do. And it's kind of cool. I think as long as we were mentioning Wodapalooza, even with the massive expansion of fitness events and opportunities, like Wodapalooza is still going strong as ever. Like it's just so impressive, the staying power that they have.
Yeah. But yeah, just a lot of stuff going on. And let's just dive right into it. We'll go start with going down your list, Oslo Throwdown. You were actually at this competition. This was a week before. Rogue. So, and I think this is going to be a twofold one right here. We're just not going to talk about the Oslo Throwdown, but we'll also tie in the Norwegian Nationals after it, because I think the Norwegian Nationals, you could discuss it. It's a unique situation this year compared to past years with the Oslo Throwdown and the Norwegian Nationals going on the same venue at the same time.
Yeah, and I actually think it's a great case study for something that I think many people are thinking about when it comes to much bigger competitions. And in particular, I'm talking about the CrossFit Games and WFP, which it seems like there's definitely a clear, potentially a conflict because of what the athletes can realistically do in a year, but also what's best for people who are running competitions, because these are they're expensive to run. There's a lot of logistics. And essentially what happened is that Roger Gilrose, who many of you are getting to know through some of the interviews he's doing on behalf of WFP, he's been running competitions in Scandinavia since 2017. And, he's built up this incredibly resume and method for doing that. The IF3 is really cool because in this case, I would parallel it kind of with the WFP in a certain regard, is that they actually provide stipend salaries for athletes, so that the Norwegian athletes that are recognized as functional fitness athletes actually have income as a result of being an athlete in their sport. But the IF3, especially in Norway, like they're not making a lot of money off of running these events, and finding a venue, especially close to Oslo, which is where it's the easiest place to gather the athletes, is not that easy. So last year they had it way off, like several hours north.
Yeah.
So basically, Roger and the Norwegian functional fitness team came together and pooled their resources, and they decided to do it at the same venue on the same weekend in the same building. It's going to draw more spectators in general, community athletes, people supporting the pros. It's an easier place for people to get to. The cost of the venue is less if they're splitting it between the two of them. So you can just see that there's a lot of, pros to this kind of collaboration. The negative, if you will, is that the Norwegian athletes who wanted to compete in functional fitness could not participate in Oslo Throwdown because they had a very important competition to do on the other side of the venue. So,
and I can talk a little bit more on that piece when we get to the actual Norwegian championships and how important that is versus anything else. But let's just dive right into the Oslo Throwdown. Second year in this venue, correct?
Yeah, and this is the Unity Arena. It's the biggest venue in Oslo.
Yeah, which is a big deal because, this I believe when I made my first trip to Oslo last year, right around September, Morgan Wallen actually had a concert in this venue. So to kind of give you a scope, we're talking this thing probably seats about 10 to 12,000 people. And I went to it last year. Last year they had it tarped off, and I could see some of it there, but it looks like they expanded it out more than they did last year to accommodate more for vendors and because you're running a couple different competitions at the same time.
Yeah, he partnered also with a group of people who brought in a BMX course. They had shows 3 times a day, a bouldering wall for spectators to be able to participate in some rock climbing there. So then there was actually a third floor for Oslo Throwdown. They need 2 floors to get through all the athletes. So huge footprint, used more of it than last year, still didn't use all of it.
Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of room for growth, which you really can't say that for many events. We've been to Wodapalooza, it's like, back when they had it in the park, it was like it hit its limit. You go to like the games when they had it in Albany, they used every single space possible where someone like Oslo Throwdown. Now, granted, it's a smaller competition, but you're having every freaking athlete in Norway competing in it. Not only that, but like I said, the other competition, Norwegian championship. So this probably has to be the biggest collection of Norwegian athletes in one area at one time that's ever happened before. because again, you have two events going on. Norwegian championships are more geared to the elite athletes, and then you have the Oslo Throwdown, which is mainly a team. There are some individual divisions as well. That's kind of for everybody else. So it becomes a community event plus a really high level competition on the other side.
Pretty much every Norwegian athlete that I know who is competing was competing.
Yeah,
there was not people like taking these off. They were there doing one or the other, and then because the Norwegian athletes were out of the way in Oslo Throwdown, you did have some athletes make the trip in, knowing that there was some opportunity there to do quite well.
Yeah.
So
let's talk about the Oslo Throwdown. I guess because of Roger's connection with WFP, it actually served as also a WFP qualifier of sorts for some of the other divisions that they're going to have at the finals.
Yeah, there's definitely some competitions that WFP has been partnering with for that. Oslo Throwdown was one of them. The WFP team was on site there. Will Morad, Matt Bickle, and Hanu was down there as well, helping out, pitching in where they could, even out there on the floor judging at times. So it was cool to have them be a part of it. But there are all the community divisions at the finals for WFP, and some divisions had a chance to make their way in there through this.
So let's go into the Oslo Throwdown leaderboard here. I guess the main division was the elite team mix. So team mix, I imagine, is just male, female, correct?
Yeah, this division last year was full of like really high caliber teams from Norway, Sweden, Denmark. And obviously a lot of them were not competing this year because they were competing on the other side. But you still had some very strong Swedish teams here. You still had Joachim Rigg and Kristen Holte out there, although they didn't make the podium. And a few up and coming, like a little bit lesser known athletes as well. And they had a really, really tight competition. I think with 2 workouts to go, there was 3 teams tied on points. So it was a small field, but it was a really fun one.
One of the names that kind of sticks out there, and we could probably tie it in with WFP, is that PACE programming team based out of Germany, I believe. Well, it's kind of growing, and I kind of want to, kind of spotlight them in terms of like, I guess, a training program camp. It's relatively new, based out of Hamburg, Germany. But it's something, and going to their Instagram, I mean, they had a lot of athletes worldwide competing. They had some athletes that followed PACE programming doing down in their championships, for example. And so I don't know. I just think this is something to keep. That's one of those things to keep an eye out on when it comes to programming. And one reason why we go to some of these competitions to kind of spotlight some of these or kind of get eyes on.
Yeah, and I think that the person you're looking for was in the women's RX individual division.
Yeah. I'll get to that too. I just wanted to kind of highlight the name PACE programming and kind of precursor what was going to happen. But the team mix, Navigator Nordic, and some familiar names right there.
Well, Camilla and Alex, yeah, I've definitely seen the names before, but they were never winning until the very end. Mm-hmm. The Varheim team, or Vanheim, mm-hmm. was in the lead basically throughout the entire competition. And I've seen Anton compete before. I hadn't seen the girl, but they were putting it to them. And the workouts were quite interesting because like the heavy ones were on the competition floor that I was covering, and the kind of more gymnastics-y and aerobic ones were on the other one. And the teams had like clear strengths and weaknesses, so they kept on showing up, Camilla and Alex, and like crushing it when I was watching, and then they'd go and surrender points over there, and then they'd come back. But it ended up on a high for them. Okay. Well, actually, no, it ended up as a dead tie. Every single tiebreaker was tied, so they split the check. Sorry, that's a few weeks.
Oh, really? Ago. Okay.
Yes.
Well, usually, I mean, so they ran out of tiebreakers, huh? Interesting. You hardly ever see that.
Every single workout all the way down was exactly the same. So
what other division did you want to kind of spotlight?
Probably just the women's RX individual division.
Yes, there we go.
Just because Vivian ends up winning here, Marie Christian, and she's definitely been a little bit more visible this year, doing teams at Wodapalooza in the elite division, competing on the WFP circuit, and it was kind of cool. I got to talk to her coach, and after and their videographer, who all kind of worked together pretty tightly for a little bit, and I hadn't really had a chance to do that before. So this is, sometimes when there's 50 like big time athletes in a competition, you don't get to talk to everyone. But seeing as she was sort of one of the few not from Norway that I actually knew who'd come up there, got a chance to talk to them. And it was cool to hear how as it always is, to get their perspective on the season, what she's working on. Like I would watch an event and think that it was good. They would have well, we could take this away. We could do this better, sort of always thinking about the next thing mentality. So, yeah, it's a good win for her. We've talked about this all the time with every level of athlete, that go into competitions that you feel like you should win, or that you're maybe the favorite or the expected winner. That's a different thing. But you still have to go there and do it. And being able to do it when you're expected to is a big deal, in my opinion.
I agree. I mean, I totally agree. And I think so for an athlete like Vivian, who, first time I met her was IF3. Well, actually it was German Throwdown. She was on a team there. They had a German team there, a team of 4, and that same team competed at IF3. And that's where I really got to know them. Her partner and coach, and then of course Max, and to learn more about the pace programming. And then, and just I think I've seen it more than probably anyone else has, outside of like people close to her, how her competing at WFP at these higher competitions has built her confidence, and now she feels like she belongs. And that's why you see her putting herself out there and going to Norway to compete and as an individual. And I mean, now she's, obviously she's competing WFP, but I mean, the way backfills are going right now, she might find herself in actually competing in the division if a couple of athletes drop out. I mean, she's not that far from it.
Right. And I mentioned that there could be there could be a potential conflict where athletes don't want to do both of those seasons, but it doesn't mean that doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing, because what it opens up for is more opportunities for athletes like her and many others that we've talked about and will talk about to get these chances on more meaningful stages to compete. And that does kind of propel a career forward in a different way. I mean, rewind the clock 8 years, insert an athlete like Vivian or Julius Kaiser, and how long does it take? Like, could they get to a regional after a couple of years? But a lot of athletes stalled out at regionals and never made it. Now there's tons of different opportunities where you can actually compete at big competitions. And even though some of the ones we're talking about here, like the Alltra Games or Down Under Championship, they may not be A tier, but they're the next tier 2, tier 3 competitions. And those competitions are starting to have more meaning. And as more and more of those pop up, then we get more athletes with meaningful opportunities to compete, earn some prize money, gain some confidence, experience. And I think it just keeps everything growing forward in a good way.
Yeah. And, definitely, I was able to talk to Roger at Rogue about that, and we brought up Vivian, and he, Roger's he's a man of Europe. I mean, he lives in Norway. I mean, he's originally from Sweden, correct?
Oh yeah, he is.
He's Swedish, lives in Norway, but he has all these ties to like different countries throughout Europe. But he even identifies like, hey, we need to get Germany it's one of those, just like how France was a couple of years ago when it came to CrossFit, where they kind of grew exponentially in terms of like growth in affiliates and participation in the open. I think Germany is that, and Germany's been like that for a while. I mean, you look at something as popular as High Rocks. High Rocks was born in Germany. It was if you even look at the High Rock season now, they have more events in German cities than they have in any other cities across the world. It was originally started I believe, in Germany, and Germany obviously has a lot of, it's the home of Puma, it's the home of Adidas, which are both brands that are, Adidas, that are part of brands that are reaching into the fitness space. And then you have something, I mean, I don't think it's on our list, but it's again something we could talk about is Athics. Athics had which is based out of Europe, but they threw an event in Berlin that was sold out and very successful. So I think people are identifying, and Germany has always been kind of this, in terms of I guess GPP, the money I mean, Germany's a very rich country. It's in terms, and it's got a lot of cities, it's got a lot of tourism, it's got a lot of manufacturing, a lot of businesses based out of there. There's a lot of growth in that in Germany. And I think fitness is finally starting to realize that. And and this is one reason why, like, Moritz, as long as I've known Moritz, it always intrigued me how Germany never had like a very like established star, as big as a country it is with all these, it's very comparable to the US in terms of what it can offer an athlete. And Moritz was like the first guy kind of identified, and he was kind of a little bit, GP. Yeah. Thank you, Lynn. Sorry.
Oh my gosh. That's amazing.
Yeah. I love Lynn so much. Thank you so much. But, we were, now I'm off base, but anyways,
that's why you're allowed to have the beard.
Exactly. I'm about to get that shaved off. But Roger, I think he identified it, and he's like, "No, it's good to have German athletes in this, to grow the sport." And I think that's what.
Well, plus Roger travels to competitions and makes those connections. He'll voluntarily go to competitions like German Throwdown, which he has, and work on the equipment team, go and judge some heats, talk to sponsors, athletes, competition organizers. Always, WADLA literally stands for like learn, adapt, and grow.
Yeah.
And he's constantly out there doing that. So
yeah. And that's the thing I'm planning on doing is we have a plit. We're traveling to go to IF3, the championships. We have a little bit time between now and between that and start of when we have to be at World Fitness Project. I might actually spend a couple after Lithuania. I might even go to Hamburg for a couple of days before I make myself to the UK, just to kind of see that community they have in Hamburg. And that's one of the reasons why I was able to talk to Moritz's manager, and she said, like, Moritz is kind of right now he's concentrating on his gym, the community, everything that's going on, and like bringing awareness to fitness in Hamburg and Germany and overall, and I think that's great.
So as we mentioned, Norwegian Nationals going on. Oh, do you want to mention that?
Yeah. Where is that? Sorry.
Germany's
ingrained in cycle. I don't know if any other sports have gained ground in Germany. Hyrox and athletics have been building though. Yep. So, but congratulations to all the winners. Congratulations to Vivian. There's quite a few people from Germany and also other countries that have punched their tickets because of their partnership with the World Fitness Project through some of these events to Copenhagen. So I'm looking forward to seeing all these. This trio right here. I'm looking forward to seeing them again. Moving on to Norwegian Championships. So Norwegian Champions, like you said, it was going on at the same time. I think outside, and I'm gonna say this, but I think outside of the games and in semifinals for Norwegians, this is probably the most important competition for them.
What do you think about just in general, like stages around the world? Like the last couple years, not last year, but the few years before that, when there was one semifinal in Europe, like, and people were calling it the European Championship, like it legitimately was. Like that's where you went to win in Europe. And I was talking to some people about this recently. I'm actually kind of curious to get your take on this. I feel like if the CrossFit Games had been held in Australia this year, that Ricky Garrard would have won and might have won going away. Like, I just think that competing where you're used to being is a bigger advantage than people talk about. And I've talked to some of the top athletes about this, but dude, what I saw from him in Torian Pro, I've never seen him look like that. Yeah. And as close as he was anyway. So the point is that when the Europeans compete in Europe, they're all competing in a time zone that they recognize is close to home, and it has that huge meaning. Now, if you break that down to a country that has like in the forefront really of functional fitness in terms of investing in athletes and coaches, and has built up this huge base, this is the one chance they have every year to show up and compete and be like, no, I was the best in Norway, or my team was the best in Norway this year, and this is my chance to prove that.
No, I mean, we've talked to athletes about this. I mean, when it came to Rogue, I think Rogue was the first one that did this. I remember talking to BKG at the first Rogue in Scotland, and he was like, finally, the North American athletes get to go through what we're going through every time for every competition, every games, every road, any of the major Wodapalooza. He's like, finally, they get to experience what we're doing. He's like, because it is a big difference. We've seen that with BKG, when he, at Tier Cup 2 years ago, and
Yep.
And then I'm talking this year to someone like Yella. And I mean, we saw that with Vellner last year when he came in with the family, came in early and got sick and stuff like that, having to deal with all the stress. If he was at home, he wouldn't have to worry about any of that, and you're right. Ricky's performances at Torian are amazing. And I think there is something to say about the home crowd. I mean, you were at French Throwdown 2 years ago. You can't tell me that the French crowd didn't almost will Claudia Gluck and Victor Hoffer into games invites.
Yep.
There's something to say about that. Now, there's some athletes that don't rise to that occasion, but I think that's a perfect example of two athletes where the whole arena, and I was watching it, you were there, but there's something to say about that.
Yeah. So anyway, I think that you open up that with a really good point. That is, for the Norwegian athletes, this is the chance. And if I didn't get to spend a ton of time over there because I was on the commentary all day at the other stage. But anytime I went over there, you could kind of tell and feel. And anytime I spoke to the athletes, you could see that it was an important competition for them.
A little bit of breaking news, it sounds like. IG News based on hybrid fit. Apparently, Wade Dabner and Mark Mashoff claimed to buy CrossFit.
Yeah, I mean, we've all been hearing that there's possibility for a long time. I haven't seen whatever Lynn's talking about here, but let's see.
Yeah, we'll put a pin on that and talk. Maybe we'll talk about that at the end, maybe with a little bit more information. But back to the Norwegians. Yeah, you mentioned it earlier. It's like it's growing not just in Norway, but Sweden has one. Switzerland has famously, like, you look at their Colin Bossard and Mirjam van Roer. If it wasn't for their IF3 governing bodies in their country, they probably wouldn't be games athletes, because that's where that's where they're funded from. And that's why the Norwegian athletes, that's why it's a big deal, because once they win something like this, they're given training camp, they're given a stipend, they're given the tools to be a professional athlete. And it's ran like an Olympic committee is, like USA Football or USA Soccer or any of these organizations. The only thing is, we don't have anything like that. We do sort of in the USA, but not at the level that some of these countries are. Germany is the latest country that's invested in their IF3 governing body, and you see other countries doing it as well. But I think,
it's important to mention all that stuff that you did, because I think that a lot of people have lost sight of, with the creation of the WFP, like they're really focused on one aspect of it, and they've lost sight of this notion that athletes have, as Will has also said for a long time, been seeking something that is, the term gets thrown around far too loosely, but is professional. Professional means that it's organized and that it's profitable, I would say. And IF3 has made a big effort on the organized side of things. And part of the way that they've done that is to model themselves in a way that could eventually qualify for an Olympic sport, which you made a reference to. You have to have certain parameters. I have said in the past that the way that the CrossFit Games are managed is much more like a game, because there's a guy or maybe a small group of people that can just change the rules as they see fit. So there is no parameters, and that's a really entertaining thing, but it's not a very professional thing if you were going to define professionalism, I think. And maybe there's something in the middle that's optimal for this particular sport, but this is why the IF3 was created, was to pursue that consistency, that professionalism, something that a government could understand and support, and that potentially a bigger committee like the Olympics could also do. It's happening in these countries that you just listed.
Yeah. Looking at the podium here, Matilda, who we lost, I guess the last time we saw her in action was actually at Belgrade Games, and she's kind of been on the mend then. She was sick from that because she wanted to compete at IF3 and defend her. I think she was a 2-time individual champion, IF3 world champion. and she was sick, and then she's been dealing with some injury issues. As you know, you've talked to her quite a few times. Wins it again.
Well, I got to see her this weekend for the first time in a while and catch up with her. She was just ecstatic that everything had gone well enough that she could go back out there and compete. The women's field was pretty competitive, but at the end of the day, she ended up pulling away from Andrea Solberg, who I think most people thought was like the other most likely one to win it. And so they finished pretty solidly 1 and 2 there, but when everything was said and done.
Yeah, and Leah Storen, who is a training partner of Andrea, still in my mind, her and Andrea one of the probably top, handstand walk gymnasts and gymnasts in the space. Rounding out the podium. On the men's side, is
we've talked about Leah a bunch this year. Like she's gotten back into competitions, and more often than not, she's in the podium mix, if not on the podium at these competitions. There was a close battle for that last spot between her and Ingrid Tandl. Ingrid, you may have seen her at WFP in the Challenger division in Arizona if you watch that.
Yeah.
But Leah is young and she's fierce. Like I saw a clip of Adrian Conway and Chase Ingram. I think Chase was asking Adrian if Lucy Campbell could win the games, and Adrian was talking about her mindset being like a critical factor and the toughness. And that's how I see Leah. Like
100%.
She has this crazy competitive toughness that's really hard to teach, and it's just part of who she is. And it's, this year I think has been maybe a little bit of an experiment for her, doing some different competitions, but a lot of these experiments seem to be going well, and the future looks pretty bright.
Yeah. Let me get that for you, Lynn. Hold on a second here.
NOR3F is the page. Nord3F.
I was going to just put it in the comments here. There we go. Oh,
yes. So women's side, a lot of recognizable names. The favorites filtered to the top. On the men's side, also names that we'll recognize. I think, you've been saying this for years, and it still holds true. He's been multiple times at the top half of a semifinal in Europe. Victor Helsinghoff is clearly the best individual athlete in Norway right now, and he wins this competition kind of going away. But again, some names that you may have seen, especially if you follow the team division, that are starting to filter into the individual side of things. Andreas Temenes, he also qualified for the Challenger division in Arizona, came over there and competed for WFP. Henrik, always struggle with his last name, Negord, I think, the boyfriend of Matilda Garnis. They won the duo, the pairs elite teams mix last year at Oslo Throwdown as well. He finishes third, and those three guys did pull away a little bit. The next guys up, Andreas Opsahl, Morten Rasch Arnesen, also are team members of CrossFit Games teams out at CrossFit Oslo over the past couple of years.
I believe Andreas, didn't he win the
I think he was
2-mile run?
I think he was either first or second in the Challenger.
Yeah, in the Challenger division. Yeah, so it was really nice. Like a lot again. Seeing a lot of these. Like it seems like the Krieger athletes and the Norwegian Krieger athletes specifically have really bought into the WFP season. They're looking, and I think it's known.
He did win it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's really cool that they were kind of leaning that, especially since a lot of those athletes that are Krieger are also team athletes. And this year, with them only pretty much having one team from Krieger, the other one ended up not having a replacement. It wasn't technically, it was a Krieger team, but not technically an Oslo team. They didn't really have a team competition to go to, so you saw a lot of them doing individual competitions, and now you're seeing a lot of these results out. The Krieger training program is competitive and growing.
Dude, this is kind of crazy, and I think it's cool. His time was 11:25 and change on that 2-mile run, which would have been in the same ballpark as 13th place for the pro division, which was Travis Mayer.
I know
nobody thinks about Travis Mayer and thinks, he's gonna do well on a 2-mile run. 11:25 for Travis Mayer, father of 4, been going to the games all the way back to 2013. That is insane. I haven't even thought about how impressive that is from Travis. This guy is a young, tall Norwegian stallion, and Travis ran the 2-mile just as fast as him. Travis Mayer is the legend.
Clip that. There's not enough Travis Mayer love. We're gonna have to get Kate to clip that and we'll post that one. Yeah, so I think again, Matilda sounds like she's back, recovering from her neck injury. Lynn says she was top 3 in Rogue Qualifiers. It just, the patience that Matilda has, like people that there really should be at some point, like maybe a movie or something made about Matilda's journey in fitness. And this is a girl that survived a car accident, getting hit by a car on a bike in Mallorca when she was training, and she bounced back within like 9 months, and has just been on this amazing journey, and then having a serious neck injury that at one point she didn't think she'd ever compete again, and now again she's there, she's doing it, and I'm looking forward to seeing her at WFP. She's going to be part on a team there, so it'll be really cool. Hopefully, we see her at IF3. I'm not sure if they're actually going to make the trip out to Lithuania, but I sure hope they do. I think for Victor and Matilda it would be nice. I think Matilda will, just because that World Championship means a lot to her, and not being able to do it last year really like discouraged her. And I know in Henrik he will do it, and I think all of them will. And I think outside maybe Andrea probably won't. Just so I wish she could prepare for WFP.
Yeah, that was something I actually did get a chance to talk to Vor and Uda, who didn't do this competition. They do actually have qualifying spots, both of them, to the World Championships, is how I understood it.
Yeah.
But if they don't go, then those would just be filtered down to the athletes that finished 4th and 5th. And same thing with if Andrea doesn't go, I think it would go down. And that's Ingrid Tandel, Stina Moen Nielsen, who we know, and Sinna Samsis was 6th. So that, is a pretty deep field. All of those athletes would certainly do quite well there. Can you pull up the Victor Helsinghoff question? Has Victor done any solo comps from Lynn?
Let me see.
He actually does a bunch. He's done Storm Games the past couple years. He did Strength and Depth as an individual back in 2023. He has, of course, done the IF3 World Championships a few times. He was 4th there last year, just missing the podium. And he also placed 5th at Turco Tumiopaiva, which we were obviously at in 2024, and Dubai 2024. He finished 17th there. So, yes, he gets around. He also did French Throwdown this year as an individual, where he placed 12th. So, very experienced around Europe and the Middle East with individual competition.
For a relatively young person, too. I think he's only 23. And he was a semi-pro or professional handball player in Norway. If you those that know, handball is a really big sport in Norway. It's a really fun sport if you actually watch it. It's a combination of soccer, basketball, and hockey, and I said basketball. But he was really competitive in that, and then took over. He kind of burst on the scene where he missed out on a couple spots of making the games out of, I believe it was French, right? Was it the French Throwdown, the first 2022 French Throwdown?
I don't remember.
You wrote about him as, one of those guys who just missed it. I believe he finished 9th. I think he was behind Braun or someone else that just got that last spot. It just, it was kind of funny because when I heard Tola, they were trying to come up with a new Oslo team, and the first guy I thought about, and the thing is, Victor is not actually a Krieger athlete, but he was a part of that team. He trains out of Oslo, but he's not a Krieger athlete, not anymore, unless that's changed in the last couple of weeks. But he was the strongest. He is probably the fittest Norwegian male wise, and I think this actually reaffirms it for him to win this. So, can't wait to, he has a bright future ahead of him. And I think him learning from, especially being on team, I think it's going to build up his confidence, him finally making the games and stuff like that. And excited for his future.
So successful trip to Norway again, 2 good competitions going on there. And in terms of the Norwegian nationals, as Patrick mentioned, we'll get to see some of those guys at Vilnius, Lithuania, first weekend of December. We're going to go over to China next, previously known as Asia Fitness Championships, this in that way, but called the Alltra Games this year, ran by our friends Max and Carrie. And there's a few Americans, especially the Adidas sponsored athletes, that get a chance to be involved in this the past couple of years. Jorge Fernandez took him up on it again. It was a fairly international field, and tried to follow along a little bit. I mean, dude, I got to get out to a competition that Max runs.
Yes, 100%.
it
I'm
just
thinking
looks.
next year we need to figure that out.
I know. And definitely some familiar names. Podium's full of them right here. Patrick's got it up on the screen for you. So Syria Meha takes the win. Camila Takeva second. Sydney Wells third. Maybe not the order you would have picked them in, but I guess Anna Ivanova from Russia, we definitely know who she is. Could have snuck in there. But otherwise, these are the three women you would have expected up there. What I noticed more than anything, just watching the social media from these girls, is that it seemed like they were like bonding and having a great time just as much as they were competing.
Yeah, it seemed like I think a lot of that has to deal with Kelly. She kind of runs there. If you watch Kelly, everyone knows there's Kiki Kelly. She's an American, lives in she's American Korean, lives in Seoul. Very, she's just awesome. But Max and Carrie brought her in to do the floor announcing and floor emceeing, and she does a great job of it. And she's so like her mind, the way her mind works is like just bringing fun and bringing people's personalities, and she has to, because I've seen her at work at the Far East Throwdown, which the Far East Throwdown, it's unlike any other competition in terms of their volunteers consists of like 8 different volunteers that serve as interpreters. Whereas like I think the only other competition that would have interpreters would be maybe Europe, but even then, majority of them speak English. Most of the briefing's done in English, but at the Far East Throwdown, it's a little bit different. So every time she's interviewing someone from a different country, she has to bring that personality out, and she has fun with it. And if you watch their social media, she obviously has fun with it. And it was really cool seeing like Syria, Camila, Sydney, all of them kind of like doing TikTok dances and stuff like that. And it really is. And I think that's what Carrie and Max really wanted them to do. That I think they want the athletes that come out, enjoy it. I think it says a lot for Jorge, who last year had a little travel incident where he missed his connecting flight, and showed up, missed the full first day, still finished, I think, 4th, even after missing a whole day of competition, for him to return. Now, granted, he's an Adidas sponsored athlete, but he could have easily said no. Any other Adidas athlete could have won as well, but he elected to go. And I talked to Sydney about it. Sydney, who doesn't like to travel, she hates flying. She made the trip,
I love that she did that. We mention it every once in a while, that as like the lifespan of an athlete and the opportunities that you get, it's not guaranteed for any period of time. And that's a trip that she'll never forget.
No, I told her that when I was exchanging messages with her.
Yeah, I think she was consciously probably knew that, choosing to go there. And it's you always have to weigh the pros and the cons, I guess, like depending on what her ambitions are for the rest of the year and how seriously she's pursuing those. She could have definitely justified that this trip isn't worth it. It's going to interrupt my travel. It's going to interrupt my training cycle. I might not do my best at whatever. But she didn't. She made the choice that this is something that's worth doing. And I think it was a great choice.
Yeah, I think, I was talking to her a lot about it, like just like I did with Jorge. Like traveling to China is different. It's like everything, there's certain apps you have to download. There's certain ways you just can't use a bank card or tap your card. Everything's done through an app, stuff like that. Just getting prepared to do that. I did that with Jorge last year, setting up WeChat, setting up with, with all the other apps that you need, because everything's ran through apps there. And I was doing the same with her. And luckily, Paige, she's the athlete Adidas rep, out here, out of the U.S. She was able to make the trip with them and kind of help them out as well. It was actually her first trip as well, I believe. And, it ended up being a fun time for them. And I remember Sydney asked me, it's like she was just like any other athlete, they're worried about food when traveling abroad. And I kind of made the point to Sydney. I'm like, what do you normally eat? She goes, oh, just like rice and chicken. I'm like, you're going to China. It's like, oh,
have more rice and chicken and
more rice and chicken than you'll ever want or need. So, it's just, it's simple stuff like that. I mean, I totally understand it. It's just one of those things you just don't, you worry about, because you're used to being like, we're talking about like the Europeans coming over to the US to do the games and stuff like that. You're leaving those comfort zones.
Well, that's a legitimate concern because of the quality of food here.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, it's a little bit cleaner in Europe. I mean, like I have no reservations eating McDonald's in Europe, but when I come into the U.S., I try not to because the amount of stuff is just bad. But I'm really it's pretty cool.
And CJ,
Yeah,
yeah, bringing
yeah.
up the travel conversation from earlier, would Syria and Camilla beat Sydney in the U.S.? I mean, Camilla came to the U.S. She
Hmm.
competed at WFP Mesa, and the result was decent, but nothing like some of the results that we've seen from her in the Middle East, in Asia, in the Mediterranean when she goes and competes there and beats athletes that you would not expect her to beat. So I think it's certainly relevant. I don't think that it's an excuse. I don't think any athlete would use it as an
No,
excuse, but I do
no.
think that it's a fair thing to observe.
I think ultimately, I think Syria, based on the program, I think she's such a better she's all around CrossFit athlete. And if you look at the programming that Max and Carrie, it's very CrossFit. Nothing crazy, no strongman stuff. Is basically the type of program you see out of semifinal. And Syria is probably, I mean, just like she won the online semifinal, she is good at CrossFit. And I'm not saying Sydney isn't, but I think there's some elements. There's some upper body pulling that she's not necessarily known for being strong in. I think there was some ring muscle ups in some of the programming, which we know Sydney struggles on. But I think for her to go there and finish third, especially and to getting that experience, I think that was great. And talking to Syria about it, she had a blast. I'm glad she did it. I'm glad I was able to hook her up with Matt and Carrie or Max and Carrie and get her out there. But this is definitely something, like I said, I haven't seen. I went to Asia Fitness Championships in 2019 CrossFit Championships when it was sanctional. I've been trying to get back to do this, and every year when I go to the Far East Throwdown, I see Max and Carrie, and it's like you were so close last year of going. It just unfortunately just the way your travel schedule and getting your passport, because it's not hard. It's hard. Like, for us to go next year, we need to start planning now. So, but no, it is great. The venue is amazing. How they treat their athletes, amazing. I mean, they had like a locker room totally dedicated. They do it in a tennis stadium. You're competing these locker rooms. They had, staff. It was great. So bravo to Max and Carrie. Bravo to these athletes. Great job. Let's jump over to the men's side. We're talking about the women's side and just kind of highlight them real quick.
Yeah, little different story on the men. Familiar names for sure. And we see Jorge Fernandez in
Well,
second,
except for
Tiago
one.
Lucic in third, Kalian Souza in fourth, Miko Liliorg in fifth, and Branislav Lenkovic in sixth. Then anyone who was picking could easily have picked those 5 guys to be the top 5 guys, and they absolutely would not have included Yakovlev Anton, or Anton Yakovlev is the right ordering of his name. So I talked to a few of the guys in the field, and this was the message that I thought would be the best one to read about Anton Yakovlev. Russian guy, don't even ask. Nice dude. Probably the workout suited him really well. He's really nice. He deserved to win.
That's awesome. That is, I mean, I've heard the same thing. We actually, one of his good friends is a friend of ours as well. So, Natalia, who we know Natalia very well, really good friends of him, and she's had nothing but great things to say about him as well. So,
well, of course, I went and checked what I would consider to be the most comprehensive database that exists, which is Apollo Performance Analytics. And on Apollo, there's data tracking back for Anton to 2021 Open, where he was 700th, all the way up to this year's Open, where he was 67th. In terms of competitions that you may have seen him at, 2023 Asia semifinals, 11th, Far East Throwdown in 2024, 8th, Grand Sapphire, which is a competition that happens in Cyprus that Camilla was at, and several other athletes, including Branislav. He was 3rd there. Branislav won that one. And 2025 Eurasian Throwdown, which we didn't cover this year, but we covered the previous year. He also made a podium, finishing 3rd. So he has been competing. 700th in your first Open, if that was his first Open, is not bad. Inside the top 70 now, obviously very good. So this guy's got some capacity. He's getting some competition experience. It's really, this is one of the things that we are why we're doing this, is because there are athletes like this coming up in different parts of the world, and there's not a lot of people that are tracking them from other parts of the world in a cohesive manner. So, we often say like, nope, this guy's on our radar now. And it's also cool that a database like Apollo exists where we can go back and find the traces of where he came from and what he has been up to the last 4 years when it comes to competition.
So this is kind of funny because you when you had that interview with when you and Hiller did your show, he gave you a chance to promote anything in the world, and this is what you promoted, and he finished on the podium at that. And it looks like a pretty, looks like that competition is gaining some traction in terms of athletes competing there.
And that's Al Sanjak Team Series.
Mm-hmm.
So, which is not on our list today, but did just happen. And congratulations to everyone involved with that over there south of Izmir in Turkey. It looked like another amazing weekend at the resort. Yeah, so Asia Fitness Championships or Alltra Games, absolutely on the short list of places that we would like to get to. Max and Carrie know that it's really up to us to just making it happen.
Exactly.
And yeah, pretty good lineup of athletes. All of the people that I spoke to who were there, I think Patrick would say the same, had nothing but good things to say about, in particular, the way the competition was run and the experience.
Yeah, Max and Carrie do a great job, and it's a really community-driven event too. I mean, I know in past years they've had over, I don't know how many they had this year, but in past years they've had over 3,000 people registered and competing. So I imagine it was the same thing. So we'll move over a couple time zones over and head to a land down under. And
yeah, down under championships. I mean, after going to Torian this past June, it's like pretty obvious that these are Jonathan Beetle's coming up towards the end of the show. These two competitions are the premier competitions in Oceania, and it's a lot of the repeat athletes from Torian are here. Basically, all of the ones that are not doing pro WFP Rogue CrossFit Games, then they're definitely in this competition. And even the ones that made the games and aren't doing those other things are competing in this. You did see a lot of kind of what maybe would be expected athletes rising up. I mean, all three of these women were athletes that I interviewed and talked to and saw excel at the Torian Pro, but this is not the order I would have picked them to finish in necessarily. Poppy Hay ends up winning this. Poppy, I think, was a top qualifier into Torian as well, and so she was on our radar going into there, and she had an up and down weekend. But second place there is Daisy McDonald, and I would have probably picked Daisy to win this. She's someone that, if they had the 5 spots that they used to have in Oceania, I think would be making the games on a more regular basis. And then third place there's Isabel Vallejo, who is much more of a veteran than these two, and is to get kind of reasserting herself as a relevant top 10 athlete in the Oceanic women's scene. They fended off Jess Green, who also around the same time period was winning the Wodapalooza online qualifier, and Christina Livadatakis, who I think Jeremy Austin, who called this event, was projecting to be one of the favorites to win it. So pretty tight kind of top group. I think it was 70 points from 1st to 9th on the leaderboard. Yeah, it was very, very close competition throughout, and it came down to 1 point. There was a great video. The girl who finished 7th, Isabella Andueza, she's a great Olympic lifter in addition to CrossFitter, is really good friends with Poppy. And there's this great video of them right before the announcement, because they didn't announce Daisy and then Poppy. I think they announced it as by 1 point, and then they both realized what was going on. So really, it looked like a really cool moment for an athlete that I had a great experience getting to know in Poppy. So congratulations to her.
Moved on to the men's. Kind of a comeback. I mean, for Bailey Martin. I mean, not kind of, it is a comeback for Bailey Martin. It's great to see him on the floor.
Yeah, I mean, the last time that I saw him was obviously at the Torian Pro when he was walking off the floor and not in a very good way at all. There was obviously a lot of concern around that. He stayed very positive. He's continued to put out these sort of, lighthearted, but also tough mindset type of stuff throughout the summer. And I think anything was possible coming into this weekend, from, crushing the field, which he did, to realizing that he wasn't ready to compete or couldn't compete potentially anymore. And I think this was a huge, probably stressful weekend for him leading into it. And it's got to feel really good coming out of this, performing the way that you would, expect him to. He's a guy that, I think with legitimate claim could be top 15, 20 in the world at any competition if he's able to get into the field. He just hasn't had a lot of opportunities to travel internationally and compete yet. So I'm hopeful that whatever happened in Torian that he's figured out up to this point, that we'll get to see the next evolution of Bailey Martin in the 2026 season, wherever he decides to compete, because I mean, the guys stacking up behind him there, like this was a great competition for Zane. He's continuing to improve quite clearly. Ben
Healthy,
Fowler.
too.
Yep. Ben Fowler, we know, is a savage, also out of New Zealand. There's his brother Riley, Isaac Newman, who we saw make the games. Those are really the 5 guys there. But Bailey left them all in the dust, 60 points to the next closest guy when the division isn't super deep. I mean, the rest of the guys in the top 10 are good, don't get me wrong, but like, look at the finishes. You see he didn't have, or he had an 18th. Everything else was like top 3. And it doesn't leave a lot of room for error for most of those guys. So I was really happy with this, to see this podium for each of those 3 guys for different reasons. And I mean, it makes a huge difference. I don't think I really gave even myself enough credit in the time for how big of an impact my appreciation for the athletes in this region was by going to Torian. But watching the coverage that weekend, knowing the athletes much more intimately, having spoken to many of them, seen them compete, talked to some of their support crews, and just understanding what the fitness community is like down there. And I mean, dude, I really hope that there is a system going forward where we can get a major event to Australia that also gives a chance for people that are like this, that, they may not be able to travel to all the tour stops of a WFP. They're not going to be coming, they're not going to make the CrossFit Games in the current format, but that they're good enough to be in these fields like the tier 2 or 3 athletes are in North America and Europe. It's just so far away. So I'm hopeful that we get to see more integration with that. And this is a great shout out. Mm-hmm. Cameron Gray. He's been putting out some pretty thoughtful stuff on Instagram, a lot of different movement variations and techniques. He's a pretty good follow. It's funny, he just put up one about the ski erg and kind of staying high and tight and not doing the full body thing. And it got a lot of traction, but it's funny to me because in Scandinavia, that's just like a common known thing from cross-country skiing, is that like tight, aggressive core repetitive motion. But yeah, Cameron Gray, great performance, getting into the top 10 there, 9th, and also good follow on Instagram.
Yeah, that's I think another highlight of this event. I mean, there's so many different ones, but I think another thing, if you're not competing as an individual, you're competing on a team. And I think this year they went, last year they went to teams. They used to be teams of 3, and then last year they switched to teams of 2. And this year some exciting races, some pretty well-known teams with athletes on them. Starting with not the team that we thought was going to win, but Geo. Was it Geo Geo Boogeyman, consisting of Brandon Gaskill and Liam Ford, takes the win over some heavily favored teams.
Both guys who we have interviews with from Torian up on B.Friendly Fitness, that had some standout performances at the Torian Pro. But yeah, I mean, the more recognizable are the ones behind Con Porter and Zach Thomas. And then, of course, Jake Douglas and Jake Marconi, who, I mean, dude, it's impressive. Like, Jake Marconi he's like a human being I don't understand. It's crazy. These guys at HWPO, like, how are they so fit with everything else that they're doing?
I think because fitness is what they do. You know?
But I also think that he's one of those guys that, like,
I think there's that baseline.
He's just got
it's also that I think if anything, maybe talking to him, I think that year where he trained exclusively with Mal beat the crap out of him, but it built up this baseline fitness that he's just been able to maintain and work and build off of, whether it be, when he was, I think after that he was trying to do weightlifting competitions. And after that, he's done, a lot of this hybrid stuff and, whether it be climbing Mount Rainier and stuff like that. I mean, I think that year, I mean, he's always had that fitness, but then I think that year with Mal elevated it, even though it pained him and it probably broke him, but that level of fitness just stayed there. And he's just been able to just build off it. And we talked to him. I mean, this is a guy, I think if he wanted to, he could be not just a semifinal athlete, but an athlete who would finish in the upper part of a semifinal, not the athlete we saw at semifinals where he's finished, the bottom half. I think he's wiser, smarter now that he has that advantage, and we've talked to him about it. It's like, hey, what does your, we'd love to see you compete, and I think there's a little bit of competitive bug still.
And then just in general, I love to see also what HWPO did this year. Similar to what WFP has done with making some rounds and affiliates, similar to the Relish project with Medeiros and Scott and the crew traveling down and visiting different gyms. They did a road trip down the east coast, of Australia, visiting all these different communities. And those those things are impactful. They're windows into what's going on there, but they're also this way to make these connections with people that you can't make without going there and actually physically being with them. It's not an easy trip at all then to get to Australia, then to jump on a bus, drive down the coast, sleep in different places, do all this stuff, keep the energy high, multiple workouts in a day. And then some of them to show up at this competition, do activations, interact with people, and then also compete. So hats off to HWPO for another very successful partnership with Down Under this year.
Yeah. On the women's side, I think if we're going to talk about the men's, we'll bring up the women real quick. Probably no surprise there. Team Barney.
Look, this was a stacked field. Brian Chalice and Marnie Sykes are both, experienced team athletes that have also done individual competition. Mm-hmm. But I wouldn't say no surprise. I mean, Emily DeRoy and Charlotte Baldwin. Everyone knows Emily Shirley very well. Charlotte Baldwin was also in the individual field at Torium Pro. Georgia Pryor.
I think Brian lost his link, or is it me? I think Brian froze. He's frozen on me. Internet glitch, probably. Well, hopefully he'll join us back. No, you're okay. I'm still. So it's Brian. Okay. All right. So we'll remove him. And but I think what Brian was saying is like there's a lot of games athletes in this field. Team Barney, who I would have picked, I thought they would do really well because of their their team experience and just they know each other. Team QHP, obviously Emily DeRoy and Charlotte Baldwin, very strong team. Emily DeRoy, who's won the games on the team, and also competed as an individual. And then Pepsi, the Snake Athletic team with Georgia Pryor, who's competed at the games 2 years ago as an individual. So, let's see if Brian is still not. He's trying to come back on. Yeah, you sound like a robot. You're glitching again. All right. But that's for Down Under Championship. That takes us back to the US of A. For the Desert City Classic, which happened this past weekend. Let me bring that up. Desert City, share this tab instead. Let's see, I think Brian's coming out. Reboot your router, Brian. There he is.
Ready for Desert City?
Yeah, ready for Desert City. unless there was something else you wanted to say about Down Under.
I think we did good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Desert City. I mean, had a chance to go there.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I had a chance to go to Desert City a couple years ago. This crew has formed a really kind of tight-knit relationship with the guys that run the Monster Games. So there's a lot of back and forth there. All these guys travel out to Monster Games to support. They've also been involved with the Legends, I think. And it seems like they're continuing to put on a great experience. I keep on seeing more and more every year athletes coming out of there, having nothing but really good things to say. Sometimes it's not like you don't have to do like big flashy changes to make progress as a competition. And I feel like Desert City is just really settling into hammering the basics exceptionally well, and then adding in little things every year to make the experience for everyone on site, especially better as you go. And in the meantime, the roster is pretty decent. Obviously, Patrick's got the men's lineup here, and you look down the list, and I would say Greg Gross, maybe the least well known of the top 8 guys, but you got a lot of serious contenders in this field. And Bill Leahy got the win, but I don't think it was a clear path for him necessarily. I mean, Max Krieg, Mac Brady, CJ Gerald, Noah Wilson, all guys that we've seen have some success at different competitions this year. And they were streaming some of this stuff on Instagram Live, but it's okay to watch there. But I do wish I could have seen more of this, like more of a coverage of this competition, because I'm pretty interested in that group of guys, especially Matt Brady is a guy that I think is kind of coming up. Bill Leahy has sort of established himself. Max Krieg, we know what to expect. I think Brady's continuing to climb, and we've kind of already mentioned him this year as being a guy who may, depending on a lot on the format and qualification process, be flirting with a game spot at one of those North American qualifiers this year.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't Will. I think he's kind of taken that Pat Vellner approach, starting off kind of slow. Wasn't leading after day one. I think it was Max that was pretty much leading after day one. But then day two, Bill kind of, established his dominance and started pulling away from the field. Like, 7th and 7th, which aren't bad. But then a 5th, a 1st, and then a 6th and a 1st. Those first places, they help out a lot. Whereas Max, really solid in a pool. Just solid around the aftershock. Day 2, 10th and 11th. That kind of like doomed him there. Brady was consistent, I think, just throughout. 2nd, 11th, 14th, 2nd, 5th. So some outliers there. But I think it was just Bill that was able to just kind of keep it, everything under pretty much a 10th place, which ultimately led, no finish worse than 7th. That helped him out. CJ, the local, from the area, I mean, probably only drove like 10 minutes to go to this competition, a 10th, 6th, 1st, a 12th, 11th, a 2nd, and then Noah's another one. Again, he's a favorite of ours. Kind of started a little bit slow. That 19th was what really hurt him. I think at one point he was in 11th or 12th. And then the second date, the final day, was able to work his way back up into the top 5. So.
Yeah, and and I think actually it was cool to have Bill and Noah both in this competition, because I feel like maybe, obviously Bill had the setback with the Achilles, but just in terms of like experience, landing on the radar compared to making a big plays at competitions, I feel like Noah's like 18 months behind Bill.
Yeah.
And so, and just in the age of them and their competitive trajectory. But I see a similar style of athlete, like guys that can win workouts. Like you said, those 100 points go a long ways. Guys that can make waves at competitions like this, but definitely still have a few things that they're working on, that they know they're working on, and that 1 and 2 years down the road will, those 14th and 11th and 19th will start to become, 8ths and 10ths and 12ths. And then you start chipping away from there. So I think Bill was the favorite to win this. We talked about it with who did we say earlier that was expected to win and she won, Vivian. You still got to go and take care of business. It wasn't the perfect competition weekend, wasn't the perfect start, but it's not, these guys are it's not an easy win. So congrats to Bill.
You can't really look at it in terms of how I would approach it as an athlete. You can't really look at it into it as like, I'm going to execute the perfect weekend, because that very rarely ever happens. But what you should approach is like, this is competition. If I'm an athlete, as much as you would hate it, you would want some adversity, because it's not always, once you get to the bigger competitions, you're always going to be behind at some point, unless you're. I mean, we saw that at Rogue, where some of these athletes were, working from behind. Roman's a perfect example. After his day one, but and that's what I think these competitions, like seeing Bill, at some of these regional type competitions, I think it's great, and I think we talked about this before. I think I mentioned it with who was it? Chris Ibarra mentioned that like he's been discouraged by people to not compete at these things. And I would say forget what they say and compete at them. One, you can make money like Bill's doing. I mean, I forgot where he finished at the games, but I'm sure he's won more money at this one competition than he won at that he's won at the game season. That includes, he competed in 2 semifinals. So actually, I think he won. Did he not win NorCal?
Mm-hmm.
I think Bill won. Okay, so Bill won I think he won like 15 grand or 20 grand just from NorCal. So strike that. But still, I think it's great experience. And then you look at someone like Max and Noah
winning NorCal. If you win NorCal for the last several years, I think it might even be 30 grand. I think it's always been, but it's not a lot if you win second or third. But winning the NorCal Classic is earning more money than most of the games field. Winning here is earning more money than a third of the games field this year. Yeah. People do I don't think if you're doing the CrossFit Games to make money, you've got it wrong. But if you want to do competitive fitness to make money, you can. There's competitions like this all over the place that you can do. And what I think it would be cool, because we mentioned the Metcon rushes, even NorCal Classics when they're not part of the game season, the Crash Crucibles, the Monster Games, the Desert Cities, TFX. There are all these competitions just in North America. And what I would like, my dream is to see that all of these things end up on a circuit where it's not everyone doing every competition. Sure. But that there are some reputable names like this that are doing these competitions, and that there's a consistent coverage that talks about them so that people are listening. Right now, there's too many different places to go to have these interactions, where most people who love competitive fitness are never going to hear us talk about this leaderboard.
Yeah.
Most people who love competitive fitness, they don't even know what's going on the CrossFit Games podcast, because it was gone for so long and now it's back, and half of the world doesn't even care for the guy who's hosting it. But it's like none of these are good things. I want to see a place where there's not this drama around who's covering it, and that's dictating why you know about it or not. That there's an organizing body that's like, hey, put all that aside. We got these incredible competitions happening everywhere. Let's put them in one place, and let the stories tell themselves so that people can learn about these athletes.
Well, that's what we talked about this the other day. It's like, and this was always kind of been the plan. I mean, I think Talking Like Fitness at one time wanted to do something like where weekly they did like an ESPN studio show where they would recap stuff like this. And we talked about this in terms of, you're seeing less and less of these CrossFit affiliated competitions. But I think the reason why is CrossFit had a chance to do that. When they had all these affiliated events, all they could have done is had kind of a show where it's like, hey, we had 15 of these competitions. Let's spotlight them real quick. Kind of recap, like what we're doing here. It doesn't, it's not that hard, but yeah, I agree.
Well, it is. The groundwork is already there. The hard part is that so many people have taken it upon themselves with this entrepreneurial nose to the grindstone mindset to make it work, that when they find their thing, they want to hold on to it, keep it their thing. But I think that what we'll see over time is that there's a lot to be learned from each other, and that the collaboration has the chance to move everything forward a little bit, or a lot of it.
Yeah. But conversely, someone like Will, Max, and Noah obviously competed a lot this year. I think for Noah, this is his 6th competition this year. And for Max, I think he's round 4 or 5th. And that's not counting it's probably a little bit more for Max because he did compete in the game season as well, whereas Noah didn't. So, but not a bad men's field. We'll switch over to the women's field. Not as I guess top heavy in terms of the athletes, but it's still some decent athletes in this field overall.
Yeah, Liz Wishart is I think she was probably the favorite coming in, looking at the roster, and she takes care of business once again. She had a decent showing over at Crash Crucible, so she's hitting the competitions, the live competitions a little bit during the fall. Carissa Stapp, first time I knew about Carissa Stapp was as a team member with Mitch Stevenson and Carrie Beamer I Love It. Yeah. Great endurance athlete, triathlon background really type stuff, runner, swimmer, bike, good. But definitely built up the strength, built up the gymnastics, and I was trying to think what competition we saw her at recently where I was impressed. Was it Monster Games maybe where she performed better than I had thought? But either
Yes.
way,
Yeah.
as an individual, it seems like this year has probably been her best year. And I'm curious about her. Like, I haven't spoken to her a bunch. I don't know a ton about what her intentions are, but I would say she's had a good year this year.
Carissa was 9th at NorCal this year. Fittest experience in 2023 was 11th. So ninth at NorCal. That's pretty impressive.
I'm going to bet it, yeah, because that was a deep field. I mean, that's not finishing too far behind the Norwegian women. Andrea Uda and Kristen, I think, were like 4, 5, 6, or 5, 6, 7.
Yeah.
And Blair Cheney. I mean, this is a nice podium for her. Again, we saw her at Monster Games. Young athlete. She caught our attention there. Jason Ansley was telling me about her before that comp. And she certainly did impress me. Talked about her on the live stream that I did there a little bit. So cool to see her get another meaningful competition and a podium under her belt.
Yeah, I mean, she's only 20 years old. She competed at WFP Tour Stop 2 in the Challenger Division, finished 15th. Competed at First Four Monster Games, finished 7th there, and then a third here. TFF, the Invitational, she finished 13th on an elite team. So they had a team together, and it's good seeing a 20-year-old like that, kind of moving up, and she's doing all the right things, like doing these type of like regional competitions, and finishing with third place. I think that confidence, especially someone against a well-seasoned veteran like Rachel Noel.
Yeah, Rachel's one of Adrian Conway's athletes. True Fitness. Check him out, especially if you're on the West Coast. He's got a lot of great athletes out there. Finishes 4th here. And these are the types of competitions that you regularly see her at. And a lot of times she's taking podiums at these. Just misses out here, but another solid finish for her. And I mean, you can just see with the 3 workouts on the screen, like she's very good at some stuff. There's still a few things that she's behind with the pace that she wants to be at, but she goes and competes and she goes back to the grindstone. And that's what, Adrian and his crew do extremely well.
So Desert City Classic, good competitions, growing in stature. It looked like this year they everyone I've talked to, I had some friends that competed in the RX and some competed in intermediate, and they had a blast. They said it was well attended, great atmosphere. Everything was just overall just really good. So hopefully it's one of those events we can make it back out to again. Next up, we're going to go from Arizona.
Arizona. They use Arizona State, and they have the pool right there just outside, and everyone gets to compete in it. So there's always a lot going on. It is a good one if you can get on site. It is a good atmosphere, like Patrick said.
Yeah, and that happened this past weekend. What also happened this weekend, so we're going to go from Tempe to Puerto Rico. So for Beetle Extravaganza.
Yeah, I had thought about going out for this one. Didn't end up making it this time, but had a lot of friends there competing, working on it. And also the Brute coaches went down with a lot of their athletes there. Do you want to start men or women?
We'll start with the men.
Yeah, so on the men's side of things, mentioned that Brute sent some athletes out there. Ty Jenkins went and competed. I think he was probably the favorite to win this. What I would have thought. I mean, Tola was in the field too, and then there was good bit of different Latin American representation. Some of the Argentinians showed up. It ended up going to Nicolas Bedarte, and he won by 100 points. Bedarte is like, he's an up and down athlete to me. I've seen him show up and do stuff like this sometimes and just look like, I mean, I didn't watch this competition, but the results speak for themselves. Look like extremely formidable. And there's other times, and I feel like maybe it has to do with injury, because there's other times that he's been like not very relevant in competitions that he shows up to. But this, against a guy like Ty, for whatever reason, was a crazy good performance. Maybe, a standout performance for me for Bedarte.
Yeah, it's really impressive by him, especially just no finish worse than 4th place. So pretty solid all the way around. And then you mentioned Ty. Ty's been, I mean, I actually, the more I think about it, I'm not, him finishing second, not too surprised. I mean, he went straight from Berlin here, basically. So he was competing in athletics on a team with James. And then, so he's been doing a lot of traveling, which is great for a young person like Ty to kind of go out there, explore the world. Me and you, we've had a lot of good conversations with him. And one of the things I tell Ty is like, hey, man, live your best life. You have a gift here and you have the ability to travel and see the world and also, talk about, your faith and stuff. So take advantage of it. And I think he truly has, and he's having fun with it. And I think at the end of the day, I don't think he'd be disappointed with how he finished. But at the same time, second place isn't a bad finish. Just I was expecting by 100 points though.
No, and this is one of, I think these last three competitions are all actually feeders into the LatAm Cup within the Wodapalooza umbrella. But I don't think North American, like a United States, can qualify. I think you have to be Latin American. So I think Bedarte would technically be the qualifier here. And I'm always curious if a guy like that, like, sort of looks at I don't know this. Like, I don't know if the competitive athletes in Latin America kind of look at the 10 competitions that are qualifiers and try to pick their spot to go qualify and get into that. I'm not sure how important it is to them. Like, we talked about how important Nord 3F is to the Norwegian athletes. I don't know if LATAM Cup holds that prestige for their community the same way that we talked about that European Championship type thing. I still think that probably Copa Sur is like the one. But in terms of the off season, if you can go and pick up a win at one of these events and get an invite to the LATAM Cup, like, there's definitely got to be some pride behind that. So Bedarte sort of punching his spot here. If he hadn't had it before, it's not organized well enough for me to follow exactly who's getting each of those spots. But I know this is on the roster of competitions that qualifies to it, and so, Bedarte, if he accepts an invite like that, would be a great add to that field.
I think, wasn't Bedarte and Tola like training partners at one point when they were both at Underdogs in Vegas?
That strikes a chord with me, yeah.
Yeah, I think so. When they first moved out there, I think, but when Bedarte kind of started training with Underdogs, but Tola, who won it I believe won this last year, finishing in 5th. So,
yeah, I don't know the other two guys too well, Brian Fallardo and Geronimo Bodin, but hey, good successful weekend. So hats off to those guys.
Moving on to the women's field, Hannah Black. What an impressive performance, especially winning it against, I think a deeper field than the men's field. I mean, Hannah Black, Fee, Ariel Sanders, Jenny Chevry. I mean, those are obviously two brute athletes. Allison Scuds, Maria Quintaro, who, went to the games. Alexa Williams, who went to the games a couple of years ago, which it's good to see Alexa Williams competing again, actually. So, yeah, a lot deeper. I mean, then you also have, Mariana didn't compete, I guess, and Dana didn't compete as well. But, I mean, all these names I'm familiar with that most athletes or most people that follow us would even be familiar with as well.
Yeah, full field. Even Sarai Rodriguez, we've covered already this season over at Metcon Rush. So, I think since you went through the whole list there, I mean, we'll start at the top. But Hannah, we talked about her a little bit, just you and I, that despite all the competition she's done this year, she has had a great year, and she's starting to look. I mean, this is a 130-point win over Fee, and we've seen how good Fee can be, and we, have seen Hannah basically just make this sort of ascendancy throughout every competition she's done, including having a pretty impressive performance in Mesa when she finally got into the pro field. So I think Hannah Black is on the verge of kind of maybe even redefining what a top fitness athlete looks like in the female side of the competition. I had told you that we'd seen this, not that it's the only thing, but we see this sort of shift on the men's side over the last couple of years with guys the size of Jason Hopper and Roman Krennikov and Dallin Pepper and James Sprague ascending right towards the top of the leaderboards. And forever, it seemed like you want to be good as a male, be as close to 5'10", 195, maybe 200 pounds as you can be. Obviously, there were some exceptions to that. Spencer Hendel was great, Brent Fikowski. But now in the past 2-3 years, we've seen men of a bigger size push their way into that final heat category where we're expecting to see them in the final heat. On the women's side, we do have Laura Horvath, who would be, on the bigger side of just the physical size of the average woman in the field. But there's a lot of athletes that are sort of kind of right down the middle. You think about the Alex Kazans, the Emma Lawsons type builds, Danielle Brandon's, they're not. But Hannah Black is to me,
she's built differently.
Potential. Yeah, and I could see other athletes like her starting to be very good in the next few years on the women's side. I don't know who they necessarily are, or she could be sort of a forerunner of them. But either way, I really like what I'm seeing from Hannah this year, and I still don't think that she's reached peak potential. I think there's another version of her still to come.
No, I totally agree, and I think she would agree too, because the Hannah Black that we saw burst on the scene at 2023 region, 2022, right? Yeah, 2022 regional, the one in Pasadena, semifinal, where she won that complex.
The snatch, run snatch, was that it?
Yeah, she won that
year before that.
Yeah, she won that first
either
part.
Way.
But she's completely evolved from that. Hey, this girl can lift to, she's running now, and she's a good runner. I mean, that last event was basically a shuttle run event, and she won that. And these, against athletes like Fee and Allison, who are fairly decent runners that can move. They're quick. Maybe not. I mean, Allison, maybe not so much Allison, but most of these athletes are. But I just, I think it's unbelievable. I mean, worst finish was a 7th, and she had a 6th, and then she just runs off with five straight event wins, and just runs away with it.
Yeah, they were putting up those winner graphics, and it was a lot of Hannah Black.
A lot of her. It's almost like putting up graphics of Tia, or like interviewing the winner after each women's event. It's like, how many times can you ask Tia the same thing, same question? But no, it's just really cool, and I agree. I think maybe either she breaks the mold, or she's the prototype of a new evolving type of athlete. If anything, I think what helps her is she has such an athletic background, being a former like collegiate volleyball player. I think that helps her out. I think having those type of like hybrid, and I hate to use the word hybrid because hybrid, but it is a hybrid. I mean, she's taking something, and from her past, and she's and using it to her experience. But I think she is, and she's I don't know, she's someone to watch. And I think all the experience she gained this year is only going to help her next year, whatever season she decides to do with WFP games or both or whatever. She obviously can deal with the volume, whereas other people can't really handle it. She's been fine with it, and it'll be interesting to see what her year looks like. But what a good way for her, win some money going right into WFP season, where she has a very, very good chance at getting a pro card.
Yeah, absolutely. The other Fee Sagafi second, Ariel Sanders third. And again, if you just look at the stuff that was coming out from this competition, I was thinking a lot about this. It looked like the athletes were just having a great time and really like bonding, building relationships. And I know that there's been some of the narrative thrown out there that like, we need more trash talk. We need more cutthroat. I hate this person. I want to beat this person. The shoulder rubbing, the like animosity. Yeah. I'm not sure if this sport really leads towards that, because you can potentially impact the person next to you by, picking up your bar a little faster, pushing a transition, like that type of stuff. But at the end of the day, like, these athletes they know their bodies so well. They've trained so hard that there's two things going on. Like, there's, every one of us who've tried CrossFit knows this. Like, there's only so far you can go, and you can be the most mentally or physically tough person anyway. But like, I've sat on an echo bike and tried to hold an RPMs to the point where my body couldn't do it anymore. Like, it literally could not do it. And it just went like the pop battery just drained. And that happens at every level. But there's also, and this is as true in any affiliate class as it is at any competition, a mutual respect. And I've seen that more and more from athletes this year at these competitions, especially as some people are starting to travel, whether it's to do, kind of fun competitions like this, like we talked about some of the Europeans going up to Norway, the WFP bringing different groups together, people traveling to China for Alltra Games and everything in between. is when you like before and after you do the workout, you can't really look to the left and right and not have respect for the other people that have put in the work to be up there on the starting line or finish line with you. And I don't think that's such a bad thing. I think that is actually something that we could own and lean into.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, I think there's more people that want to see, that type. I mean, I think the perfect example is you look how popular the Boys Interrupted podcast is. These are four guys who are really good friends, or have become really good friends. I mean, at one point, Justin and Jason didn't like each other, but now, but now more people, they're more relatable now. And now you're seeing a different part of Jason come out. I mean, I haven't watched Hiller's latest video on Jason, but I think Hiller might be saying he might be too nice of a guy, but especially for a champion. But I think again, be friendly. It's just not a name; it's a lifestyle for us. And I think there is some, there's a lot of credence in that. And I think at the end of the day, it's like there's so much negativity out there. Us wanting to create drama and stuff like this. I mean. There is no bad girl or bad boy of CrossFit. There isn't. I think people want that because it's just something different. But at the end of the day, those type of people end up burning out anyways. They end up being.
It's so funny because like if you were gonna pick someone for that, you might pick Colton, right?
Yeah.
But if you spend any time with Colton, he's like the nicest guy ever.
Exactly. And the same with DB. DB gets a bad rap, but you've spent time with DB. You've talked to DB. I've spent time with DB. I've talked with her, and it's like that's not at all how she is or as perceived to be. But people have this perception of her based off one incident of her flicking off the crowd, which at the time people are like, "Yeah, we love that," But now they're kind of looking at it as like, "Oh, it's quick. It's weird how the media now people can flip based on perception." But anyways,
but wasn't it the most brilliant PR move in the history of our sport?
Yeah, it was up there. It was definitely up there. I won't say brilliant. Brilliant would mean that it was kind of planned, but I don't think that was planned at all. I think it was just a culmination of a lot of things going on with DB during that weekend. I mean, and that games changed a lot of the trajectory of DB as well as a lot of athletes' careers. That was the games that Carrie Pierce, Bethany Shabern, and DB. Those were names that were talked about. Easily top 10. A lot of us were talking Bethany Shadburn as a possibility of winning the games that year, but look what happened.
I had her pick 7th.
Yeah. But look what happened off from that games. It's like, the life trajectory of all those athletes changed after that. But two, we'll go over these real quickly. Sorry, don't mean to but I have stuff going on. I have to shoot a soccer match.
Yeah, and these are we don't have as much information on these ones.
Yeah,
basically.
So,
but there were two other competitions in Latin America, South America that happened this past weekend, or at least in the past couple of weeks. South Fit, which is a competition that I've been pretty interested in, but I haven't had a lot of success of learning too much about it. Haven't taken an initiative to go down there, obviously. Oh my gosh. Can you read those guys? Do you know who they are? Because I couldn't find a leaderboard for this.
Oh, I don't have of course they don't no, they don't have the athletes listed. I couldn't find a leaderboard either.
Yeah, and I'll say this for competitions, like in general, I tell this to competitions I work with all the time. If people are, especially if your competition started, most people that are coming there, they're going to be interested in the leaderboard. I would have the link tree and the leaderboard in English, probably written or translated as one of the first buttons to hit. If you want people to to be engaged with what's happening there, I mean, it's a competition, regardless of what division they're in. And Patrick and I do this all the time, and try to find these leaderboards sometimes is so difficult, and it really shouldn't be. So, but South Fit, Greatness Fit Fest. Is this Benjamin Gutierrez?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, Benjamin Gutierrez is very, very well known to me, and not surprised to see that he's won this. Yeah, and I mean, this is the thing about the LATAM Cup. Like, I don't think that the winners are always accepting their invites there. I wish that they would, because there ends up being, I mean, the other one we're going to get to is Fran Hurtado, who almost won the WFP Challenger division out of nowhere. And just in the names that we've talked about, Bedarte, Gutierrez, and Hurtado, like you're starting to build a really good field where you could like be seriously talking about it. Similarly with some of those other like Torian Pro, like now you're really and Down Under that you're talking about like a LATAM Cup and Copa Sur as like the 2 times per year that you really get to see the best from South and Latin America face off against each other.
Am I reading that correct? Is that 4 million pesos? So I'm trying to do the conversion here. That's I don't know. Right? Yeah. If that, I don't know what that is. If it's 4,000 pesos, that's only like $300 US. But if it's 4 million,
I mean,
it's totally different. But yeah, on the women's side,
30,000 then.
Yeah, I don't think it's that much either. On the women's side, I'm trying. Where is she? From Q21.
Is it Augustina Haag?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, Augustina was I think 1 spot out of qualifying for the games last year. And she's been on some teams in Argentina. I don't know much about her, but I have seen her filtering towards the top of leaderboards in South America. So understandable winners for sure from Southfit.
Yeah. Yeah, she's
90,000 followers on their Instagram page. I mean, this is a serious competition down in South America.
Oh, definitely. And I mean, again,
it's athletes.
And one thing I wanted to point out before we move to the next one, if you look at who the sponsor of this was, it was Adidas. So, Adidas was plastered all around, and I think Adidas is, I mean, it's on the freaking logo. It's on the freaking medal, so I think Adidas is, like I said, their movement into the space. I think it's being very subtle, but they're making all the right moves in terms of whereas, when you saw Noble and some of these other people, other competitions, they're going like U.S. competitions. Well, Adidas is taking a different approach. Adidas is a worldwide brand based out of Germany. And then you see them, they're sponsoring competition in China. They're sponsoring competition in where's Argentina. So I think it's a very, very smart move by them, unlike and that's the reason why they're a successful company, because they're not putting fitness in a box.
And they're also obviously invested with the World Fitness Project this year.
Mm-hmm.
And World Fitness Project, by the namesake of it, is a company that is a global company, is a global fitness league. So I think those are notable pieces to kind of take kind of piece some stuff together potentially there of how these things. That's what I'm really seeing as I sit back and watch this fall. Like it seems like there's so many things that are just waiting for this to happen. And if that thing happens, I think there could be a really cool progression going forward.
Oh, I agree. I mean, that's one thing I think me and you talk about all the time between ourselves about what it takes for, again, that connection when everything just falls in line. With this new sale of CrossFit, what does that do for it? I don't know, but it just seems like Adidas and some of these other brands, they don't care. They're not looking. They're looking at fitness. They're not looking at CrossFit. That's why you have Ethics. That's why they're involved with Ethics. The World Fitness Project and some of these other upstarts. So in High Rocks in terms of has Puma and so on. So and staying in South America, actually, with that, Guatemala is more Central America, correct?
Yep.
Yeah. So staying in America, but going to Guatemala is the Greatness Fit Fest.
Yeah, and as I mentioned, Fran Hurtado gets the win here. Man, dude, he was impressive in Arizona. I mean, he almost took that challenger win from Chris Ibarra, which is crazy. Don't know if he's done anything since then. There he is there on the left, obviously, but getting the win here. And man, I hope we see more of this guy because he's got some potential for sure. The girl that won, Isabel Davis, I believe is how you say the last name. And similarly to Augustina, I've seen her around on some leaderboards. Don't think I've ever seen her compete live, but not a like out of nowhere name for me. I've been kind of watching her move up and down the top, move up within the top 10, excuse me, in Latin America. Oh, don't show those reps.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, shoot. I think I just did something. Okay. So the last thing I want to touch upon before let me go grab it, is with all these live events, and I'm sure there's a couple we missed there, but those were the main ones. Is that there was obviously that we're an online qualifier season, and one of the competitions that has a online qualifier right now is Wodapalooza. Their individual online, I think their team of 3 is going on now, but their individual, I think it's finalized. Pretty sure it's finalized, but different format. It looks like they're taking 10 from the online qualifier. I imagine the other ones will be invites. So I don't know if that'll be another 10 or another 20. Who knows? We've had fields at Wodapalooza that were almost 60 athletes at one point, right?
I think 45-ish is kind of like where the elite fields have usually topped out. And we've talked about also in the past how didn't we do German throwdown already? We did that a couple weeks ago, I think.
I think we did.
We got you, Carl. We've covered Carl. German.
Carl,
nice work over there.
Are you going to World Fitness Project? Are you looking to be on a team? Let me know. Reach out to me. I have some teams. Some teams are looking for guys to be on. They need guys. But anyways,
yeah. Wodapalooza qualifiers. Do you have the leaderboards there? There's some decent names on it, but it's like Wodapalooza historically has always invited all of the games athletes from the previous year. I'm not honestly sure what it's going to look like this year for the elite division, but some strong names up here. Connor Volts, obviously we've talked about in the U.S. He's had some good appearances. Nick Matthew, most seasoned athlete on this list, I would say. Bill Leahy, we spoke about earlier in this shoe. Interesting to me that I saw when Lucas signed up for this, he was really pushing for it. He said, "See you in Miami." I think he's not happy with how he finished there last year, so I think he's got a little bit of redemption on his mind for Wodapalooza this year. Alex Majors in the U.S., Ilya Moshelenko, Evan Rogers, Miko Liliorg out of Estonia, Josh Gervais, dude, I don't know how he's still doing it, out of Canada, and Andron Primos, a little South American representation. But it's not a top 10 that you would look at and be like, oh, wow, this is going to be like the best elite division field ever. That depends on who the other athletes that filter in are. But that's pretty much how it always is in Wodapalooza. And I like that they have the qualifiers. I like that you get athletes of this caliber from all over the world signing up. And I'm curious to see what the rest of the division ends up looking like this season.
Yeah, I mean, some great names there. I mean, Evan Rogers coming off that third place finish on Camel City CrossFit at the team division at the games. Ilya, who's, it's weird. He's one of these guys who's been competing at a NorCal Classic, from the Ukraine, barely speaks any English, but is strong. I know Hiller's a big fan of his. But, I mean, this is our qualifier. It's not bad. Next one's in Nicholas Bedon, Phil Lundquist, Zach Thomas, Phil Roy Peters. Those are kind of your backfills in the event that's, someone can't come. Female side, some names I'm not too familiar with. Jess Green, I don't have that much. I don't know too much about it. Brian, how about you?
She's in this big group of athletes out of Australia or the Oceanic region, because obviously there's a bunch from New Zealand as well that are very relevant in the kind of outside of the top 3 or 4 that you'd know. We just saw her on the leaderboard for Down Under, and yeah, I mean, she's decent for sure. I wouldn't have picked her to win. She's ahead of some girls that I would have expected to do quite well there that did. Aline Wirtz, Andra Moistis, much more familiar names filtering towards the top of these boards. Matilda Garnis, Jenny Chevry, Hannah Black, Carissa Stapp, who we talked about on this show as well, Astrid Tind, who had a good showing at Wodapalooza last year. This was a big deal for Ellie Turner to get into this top 10, and Pernille Christensen out of Denmark as well, 2 Danish athletes there. International representation, a lot of Northern Europe, Oceania, and North America, of course. So the 3 big regions of the world represented, but good, again, a really good, solid group of women. And depending on what the invite looks like on the Wodapalooza side for the rest of the division, of course, the elite division in Wodapalooza can always be entertaining.
Yeah, I'm really interested. Again, we saw Ellie. That was kind of her like litmus test to see how she feels, how she does in fitness, if that passion's there. And I think talking to her afterwards, I think I had an interview with her that posted that she it's there and she's excited about it. And I think Justin coming off his Rogue finish where he looks like this different athlete than we've seen before. I think the combination of both of them will do. I think big things are in store for Ellie. I'm really excited to see what the season looks like for her. And then again, we brought up the Aline and then Astrid. But yeah, the next one's in Martina Borini, Brittany Weiss, who's coming back from back surgery, and Diana Pinchuk from the Ukraine. Kira McManus, the winner from the 14-15-year-old division. So I think she turned 16 or will be turning 16. Then Rebecca Vincent. So, those are your backfills in the RX division, which on the women's side, looks like the RX division, if they elect to compete in RX, it's going to be pretty competitive.
Usually is.
Yeah. Rachel Klausing, Julia Jacobson, Madeline Pearson, Maria Quintero again. I mean, yeah. So not bad. I couldn't find a leaderboard for German Throwdown. I believe it's on the
it's probably on Circle 21
on one app, which is weird because I can't pull up the app, but I was able to find like kind of the podium, and Carl did finish third at the German Throwdown. I think Julius Kaiser won it. Hold on, let me bring it up here real quick, and then to make our good buddy Carl. Where's the share screen? There we go. That's the wrong screen. That's the Circle 21 app. But yeah, so that's Carl on the right finishing third, 750 euros, and then I believe that's Julius with 3,000 euros, and I don't know who that is in second, but yeah. And then on the women's side, let me see if I can find the women's. I believe Julia Jacobson won. I imagine she won. That's her in the middle. So a little different field than what you've seen at German Throwdown, really German focused than past years. I think they're going through a rebuild and rebranding of German Throwdown, but I definitely can see the German Throwdown becoming one of those up and coming events like it was before.
Steven Taillefer out of France was the second for the men. Okay. Jacobsen, Yasmin van Arnheim, and Rika Laursson, who Rika was actually the first name that I didn't read, I think. Oh, no, excuse me. She's from Denmark. There's a Rika in Norway as well. So that was Germany, Belgium, and Denmark on the podium there for the women.
All right. I think that's it. Well, lessons learned from this is that we don't need to wait 2 weeks. We need to stay up to date on covering these competitions a little bit better.
Yeah, but there was a lot going on. You had a big trip to Rogue. We've been, there's been other stuff happening in life, but these competitions are important parts of the ecosystem. They're important to us. We want to support the organizers, the volunteers, the judges, the staff, the fans, and of course the athletes. So important to us to do this show. I did send you one thing in the private chat there. I don't know if you had a chance to see it.
I didn't see it. I'm not a robot. About the Reddit. Yeah. I was reading. Okay. So yeah. Spin has an article up too. And regarding the sale of CrossFit, Was there something in this you wanted to point out, or?
No, since Lynn had sent it in earlier that she'd seen it, and someone was asking who these people are. So this was 2 days ago, actually. I think maybe even more than that, 4 days ago. Is that what it says? November 6th?
Yeah, I think
6
it was.
days ago.
Yeah. But yeah, that Reddit feed that Brian posted, that's where originally this started. And, of course, you can't believe everything on Reddit. And I think that's the funny thing. There's that little GIF right there, or GIF from about Reddit. But Spin has been doing his investigating, and Wade Debner and Mark Mastroff, apparently they're in a 90-day window. And it seems like all the signs I've read, and if you read the article, Wade, it basically private equity. It's being sold. Wade works for a banking financial service, and I think that's probably where some of the funding is coming from. And so it almost sounds like it's going back into maybe a hands of private equity of some sort, or some type of investment group. And then, there's not much on him in terms of what his background is. But Mark Mastroff, he, I believe, is the founder, or let me see if I can find this correct. The founder of 24-hour fitness. So
yeah,
one of the pioneers of the modern gym movement. He also helped create an organization that's raised over. Okay, that's something else for ALS research, but yeah, it's just something I googled real quick. But yeah, but we've heard this before with B Sport as well, so it's one of those wait and see. Apparently, this was leaked by someone within CrossFit or from the private equity group, is what I'm hearing from the article, because Wade and Mark aren't saying anything. But I believe our buddy Mark Davis over at Hybrid Fitness Media interviewed, I believe, Wade or Mark, and they talk about this, actually. Sorry, Matt Davis, not Mark. I will say Mark Davis.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that the T-Bird said it earlier, like, is it finally sold? I've been waiting for this. I think that, is it actually going to sell? I'm waiting for this to happen. I think a lot of people have. It's been a different year. So I would say some really good things come out of this year. Helping. Is that interview published somewhere?
Yeah, I think on Hybrid Fitness Media. I think it's linked in Spin's article. 1 second. It's someone in here. Davis article on the Hybrid Fitness Media website. Yeah. So.
Yeah, but I mean, it's in. It's a lot of the stuff we talk about is with regards to the sport, and obviously, CrossFit as a sport, or the CrossFit Games team, has done something this fall that a lot of people have been hoping they would do for many falls, which is announce a calendar early. I think that was in large part because the WFP exists this year, and they have someone that maybe they don't think of them as an equal, but they're definitely there, and something that has to be thought of. If the games, I mean, if the company sells, how does that impact the games season? Is an interesting question, but I think from a bigger picture, the sale of CrossFit is more important to the training community globally that CrossFit has ignited. And that's what I'll be kind of most curious to see, is if there is a new owner, whenever that comes, if there's what kind of initiative is put into the sport compared to what's put into the community of affiliates and training. Because, for a similarly long period of time, maybe dating back to 2018, 2019, at least, there has been a conversation about how those two different things support each other. And, a new ownership group could definitely take a different approach with that.
So what's next? According to the Hybrid Fitness Media article, Debner and Mastroff's group have 90 days to conduct its due diligence, including reviewing financials. If all checks out, it appears that we could see an official sale of CrossFit in January 2026. I think that's where we were at when it came to B-Fit, was in that 90-day window, from what I heard. And again, it's not reviewing the financials. situation. From what I'm hearing from my sources and the rumors, it was the reviewing financials is when that's when everything kind of got stuck up. Specifically when it came to like pending lawsuits or stuff like that. I mean, there's still stuff out there regarding the Jukic family and what's happening there. So if I'm investing, I mean, is that what you want to invest into? Because once you invest into it, that becomes your problem now. Not a problem, but that becomes your something you're taking on as a financially. So who knows? Like I feel like this is the second time. It might have been the third time where we've been under this 90-day window. So we'll see. There's not, again, we don't know enough about these people or what they've said, anything. I doubt they'll be as open as B-Fit was or Max Move or whatever you want to do, where they're kind of saying whatever is on their mind and their ideas. These guys seem like they'll probably keep things a little bit closer to the chest in terms of what the future looks like. So we can only assume, based on their background and based on what I'm seeing, they probably don't fit into the mold of CrossFit and what some people in CrossFit want to see, but who knows? It could be exactly what CrossFit needs, but only time will tell.
$20. That's all I ever get from Mike.
And I believe Halpeman's Malachi, or not Malachi, or Malik. So, okay, so a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of. I mean, the girls have a show on tomorrow. Maybe they'll dive into it a little bit more. That sounds like something I would love to hear Kate and Mace's thoughts about. And then next week they'll actually have someone on. Maybe if there's more information out. Someone who's a little bit expert when it comes into the business side of fitness. That'll be very interesting to hear. But yeah, I think that's it. A lot of stuff going on. World Fitness Project is, less than 40 days.
Yep.
We leave first week in December for Lithuania. Didn't think that was going to be in my bingo card of places to travel to this year, but heading back to Europe again. I didn't get a stamp when I went to Scotland, and because everything's electronic there on your passport, and I hate that. So hopefully in Lithuania we'll get a little stamp. But we'll be there for IF3 championships. A couple other announcements hopefully coming out this week regarding B.Friendly Fitness. So definitely keep an eye on our Instagram and social media channels. A lot of stuff going on, obviously. It's like it's just coming in. But we'll try to cover as much as we can. Obviously there's many other people that you can get your opinions on the state of CrossFit, the state of functional fitness. But if you want happier and gentler news, this is what we're here for. Yeah, so cool. All right, Brian. Well, yeah, I got some work to do today, and you probably got some working out to do. How much you already paid the Bears, man. The Bears, right? Instead of paying the man, you pay the Bears.
Yeah, I think I hit a 24 or whatever 100 meters it was that day, but I've done some more rowing since then too. Yeah.
So, yeah, I got Caleb Williams with Jackson Dart out for that concussion. I have to start Caleb Williams this week, so hopefully he has a good game against. I forgot who they're playing, but
Minnesota.
Oh yeah, another. Well, I mean, he did really well. Week 2 against Minnesota, or was that week 1? He had a rushing touchdown and 2 throwing touchdowns. So, but I don't know. But anyways, thanks everyone for tuning in. I know long show, a lot longer than expected, but again, it has a little bit of everything for everyone. If you want to know about what's going on in China, going on in Puerto Rico, Argentina, Venezuela, I mean, what else am I missing here? Norway. I think we hit, the only place we didn't hit was was Africa. And I think there probably was, according to Lynn, there was a competition in Africa. But the good news, Marius, is that you can download these episodes and listen while you're stepping, or you can watch it again. So that's the cool thing about these playback functions. So thanks a lot, Marius. Marius, who, if you guys haven't seen, he did the highlight videos for our Rogue weekend. Our weekend in Rogue, as always, did an amazing job. Always great having him a part of the team, and it's just awesome to work with him at WFP as well. So, but all right, people, make sure you get outside. Look at the North Star, the Northern Lights. It should be up and about tonight. Brian, are you going to look at the Northern Lights tonight?
I was looking yesterday. I couldn't find them, so I guess I'll give it another go. Yeah.
Yeah, supposed to be stronger today. So that's probably why your internet's so fucked up. Yeah, go out, see this Northern Lights. It's supposed to be stronger tonight. And yeah, that's all I got, man. Oh, I had a lot of people reach out to me thanking me for my service for Veterans Day yesterday. I want to say no, thank you for your support. The reason why veterans do what we do is because we love serving our country. We love doing that type of stuff. We believe in doing that stuff. Your support means more than you know. But it is cool that you guys say thank you, thank me, and appreciate it, and we really do. But if you get a chance, Veterans Day isn't just one day of the week. Still veterans are still taking their lives. At 22 veterans are taking their lives each day. So if you know a veteran, just because he seems all right, check in on him, ask him if he's okay. I don't know, buy him a coffee or something. That stuff goes a long way. So acts of kindness go a long way at the end of the day. So with that being said, Brian, if you don't have anything else, all right. Be friendly, our friends.